I will tell you how to make an electric bike yourself. I will prove that you can make it even if you are short of money. It will be light, reliable, powerful e-bike. Besides the bike, the 3 more items are the must. An electric motor, the major part of the bike, a battery, the most expensive part, and the rest stuff like a continuous controller, a throttle and some wires. Firstly, decide how powerful you want your bike to become. Personally, I pointed out 2 types of e-bikes. First are electric bikes which are so mighty and heavy that I think pedals are extra, just because they are too heavy for pedaling. In the second type of bikes you can use pedaling and engine too. You can rely only on the motor if you want, but nevertheless this type is much lighter. Mention that the more powerful your bike will be, the more expensive and heavy it will be too. And at the same time, an expensive one goes worse than a cheap moped, for you could choose simpler between them. Let's dwell on the types of electric motors for bikes. There are 3. The first one is a commutator brush gear motor with a reducer, which is attached to the bicycle chain directly near the bottom bracket. Its main advantage is that it doesn't require a complex controller, because it's sourced with continuous current. The speed is switched by shifting the chain's rings. That provides high velocity and a good torque speed going up the hill. Nevertheless, it has several drastic drawbacks. This motor makes too much noise. And also a brush gear motor has a limited electrical conductivity. The second type of motor is a direct drive in-wheel motor, which is installed in the rear or in the front wheel. This kind of an e-motor is the most sturdy and reliable, just because its design is plain. The power of such motors can be up to 10 kV, and it also has a recuperation mode. It means that you can get some electricity while you don't pedal, for example going down the hill. Though this type of motor has 2 drawbacks. The first thing is that it weighs a lot. It will be as heavy as the moped, so strong spokes and frame are necessary. The second flaw is that it deteriorates the free running mode. Imagine your battery died, and pedaling with the motor will be a hard thing because the engine will slow you down. There is also another type of an electric motor, the Diuno wheel. There are no expensive magnets and there is unique winding. What makes easy using pedals and provide wild power? Just check out the link. Now you can also become an investor and earn some money from it. If you would like to see us testing this wheel, like the video and write some comments. The third variant of an electric motor for bike is the planetary reducer. It uses the rotation to boost the torque, then smoothly lowers its effect following according to the rotation. Its benefits are lightweight, nice speed boosting and easier going, thanks to the built-in ratchet, and thusly this kind of motor is friendly for pedaling and doesn't disturb it. The drawbacks are the lack of the recuperation and not really durable gears. It can brake fast if you won't drive carefully. I chose the last variant and now I'm going to install it. I think that was the best offer regarding the balance of the price and quality. I've bought 350 watts hub motor and told the seller to attach it to the spokes. It looks like a giant bushing with speeds. I wonder what is inside of it. Let's see. That's an overrunning clutch. It provides easy rolling. There are big gears, aren't they?
Class.
The gears are made of really hard plastic to make the rolling smooth and silent. The plastic isn't a trick to make you to buy new ones when it's broken. The starter motor has a powerful 3-phase winding, and there are 20 large neodymium magnets are attached to the motor. Let's start the installation process. I am removing the old wheel, and the first thing I do, I set the tire to the new wheel. Then I swap the brake disc on the wheel with the motor, cause I have disc brakes. There are 6 holes for 5mm bolts on the cable side. My bolts turned out to be too long, they prevented the rotor from moving. To save the situation, I used some nuts and screwed them tightly. Now let's swap the chain rings. This motor is for freewheel, but I had a cassette, so I had to buy a new freewheel because it has a ratchet. Now let's install all this. I've decided to pick the rear wheel. I think in this way I will feel less motor resistance and will get more controllability. When you install the wheel into the fork of the bike, make sure the cable hangs down. And the axis must feed the dropouts tightly. Tight enough, but not too much. The motor is installed. The next and the most expensive part of an e-bike is the battery. It may cost you a fortune if you are going to buy a ready-made one. But you can also make it yourself using the lithium battery bank size 18650. The best variant both in price and quality I found in the internet. Each battery cost me $1.50. Take my advice, don't forget to read comments before going to buy something. Because lots of sellers mistake the capacity. To make a real battery for an e-bike, I mean 36 watts or 10 ampere hours, I'm gonna need 40. And I also need a battery BMS system. Here are my batteries. Capacity is okay. I chose this shape of the battery, just for easier fastening to the bike. I'm using thermal adhesive to make them one unit. Then I need to solder them according to the scheme, 10 in parallel and 4 consistently. Usually the welding is used, but you can also solder it. I will teach you how to solder it, avoiding the overheating of the elements. You will need a big soldering iron for 60 watts. Wait till it heats well, get some tin on it, then put some gun oil on the cells. Place the wire on them and touch it not more than a second with the soldering iron. Eventually we have got a high quality battery pack with no cells overheated. After this I solder the battery BMS system according to the scheme. This bike will be connected to the motor, and this one is for charging. A power block can be used for charging, with a voltage of 42 watts. 2 charges for laptop or a power source like I have will perfectly do for it. The charge speed depends on the voltage level. If I set the maximum, the full charge will take an hour. Now I'm wrapping the battery with a protective material. They were packed in when they were delivered. I'm wrapping them tightly with the tape. So at last we've got a soft and impact-proof battery pack. And it can be used for any purpose actually. It may sound weird, but just having a battery and a motor doesn't mean you can turn your bike into an e-bike. We also need a controller and a throttle. They will provide us control over the e-bike. We need a controller to turn the voltage of the battery into the 3-phase alternating current, which is necessary to make the motor going. And the controller also manages the amount of energy by the throttle. And here is the throttle. The controller kit has some other parts. Here they are: the controller, handle brakes, a control console, a display, a pedal assist, a throttle and some wires and a case. Let's add these pieces of equipment and see how it will work. All these wires are colored marked and it's almost impossible to mix them up. And the last one is the power wire. Here comes the solemn moment. Turning on.
Wow. Ooh.
Let's backlight.
Ooh.
So I can see the speed rate in the middle of the display, the energy rate and the approximate distance of an e-bike may cover. And that's the pedaling rate and the consuming rate. So my friends, it's time to push the button.
Опа.
It is maximum now. The system works. Let's fasten all the stuff to the vehicle at last. The display is on the stem, the throttle is fastened, the power button is installed. For now we've attached the battery here. It weighs less than my old bike, which had no motor. I'm connecting the power wire. Oh, it's so rapid. Let's go test it outside. Well, I'm on the streets for a little rampage, pushing the throttle. See, I'm not pedaling. The sound is pretty loud, but it isn't irritating. It pulls me like beastie. Going up the hill now. It's 26 km per hour, though this hill is quite steep. When I start to pedal a little, the consuming rate drops a little. I feel like I'm driving a moped. That's an awesome speed for such a tiny motor. Now the time for a burning question. How much this new made e-bike costs? Taking into account all discounts and the cashback, this motor cost me $100. The battery was about $60, plus all of the stuff, controller, display and wires. The total amount of the pack is $200. It's not really costly for an e-bike, because I used a durable light battery, might cost me a fortune, and a pretty furious motor. And now I can't help wondering what distance this bike can ride for one charge, and I'm really eager to find out its benefits and drawbacks comparing to other vehicles. That is why one of my next videos will be a real ordeal for this little e-bike. Don't miss it, my first crash test of an e-bike.